Hello, I'm Valerie Alawiye, and welcome to Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope, a space for reflection, renewal, and grace in the midst of chronic illness and grief. As we begin part two of our three-part conversation on creative expression in chronic illness, it's helpful to briefly return to where we left off. If you recall, in part one, we explored how creative expression often shifts in the presence of chronic illness and how that shift can quietly affect identity. We named the grief that can emerge when familiar forms of expression become less accessible, and we expanded the definition of creativity so that it's no longer limited to specific activities or outcomes. This creates an important foundation because reconnection doesn't begin with action. It begins with how you understand what is available to you. Many people assume that reconnecting with creativity means returning to what they used to do and the way that they used to do it. When that expectation is present, the process often feels discouraging before it even begins. Reconnecting with creativity becomes more sustainable when it's approached without expectation. So instead of asking whether you can return to a previous version of yourself, the question becomes whether you can meet yourself where you are now and explore from that place. This requires a shift in orientation. You're no longer trying to recover something exactly as it was. Instead, you're learning how to engage with creativity in a way that reflects your current capacity, your current energy, and your current life. Creative expression has long been understood as a way to reconnect with the self, particularly during periods of change or uncertainty. The psychiatrist and psychoanalyst D.W. Winnicott described creativity as a fundamental aspect of feeling alive rather than something reserved just for artists or performers. In his work, he emphasized that creative living is less about producing something and more about experiencing life as real and meaningful. This perspective is particularly relevant when you're living with chronic illness. When physical limitations or fatigue disrupt familiar activities, it's easy to feel disconnected from yourself. Creative engagement, even in very small ways, can begin to restore that sense of connection. Research in the field of expressive arts therapy supports this understanding. Studies have shown that engaging in creative processes can improve mood, reduce anxiety, and increase a sense of agency, even when the activity itself is simple and brief. The value lies in the experience of the engagement, not in the complexity of the output. This means that reconnecting with creativity doesn't require large blocks of time or high energy levels. Can begin with small, intentional moments that allow you to engage with your environment, your thoughts, and your senses in a different way. One of the most common barriers to reconnecting with creativity is the belief that you need to feel ready before you begin. In reality, readiness often follows action rather than precedes it. Starting where you are means acknowledging your current state without trying to change it. It means recognizing your energy level, your mental capacity, and your emotional state, and allowing those factors to guide your engagement. For example, on a day when your energy is low, creative expression might take the form of listening to music with intention and noticing how it affects your body or your thoughts. On a day when your mind feels clearer, you may choose to write, organize, or create something more structured. The key is that the activity matches your capacity. This approach reduces resistance. It also reduces the likelihood of frustration because you're no longer asking your body or your mind to operate outside of what is currently available to you. Over time, starting where you are builds your consistency, not in the sense of doing the same thing every day, but in the sense of maintaining a relationship with creativity that adapts alongside you. As you begin to reconnect with your creativity, experimentation becomes an important part of the process. Experimentation doesn't require commitment, it doesn't require mastery. It's simply a way of exploring what feels accessible, engaging, and supportive in the moment. The writer Elizabeth Gilbert, in her book Big Magic: Creative Living Beyond Fear, speaks about creativity as a relationship that benefits from curiosity rather than control. When curiosity is present, the pressure to perform or produce is reduced, and the experience becomes more sustainable. This perspective allows you to approach creativity with a sense of openness. You might try different forms of expression without deciding in advance whether they'll be part of your routine. Or you might revisit something familiar in a different way. And you might discover that certain activities feel supportive at one time and less so at another. This variability is not a problem, it's information. Experimentation also helps you identify what aligns with your current season of life. What feels grounding, what feels energizing, and what feels draining can shift over time. And allowing yourself to notice those shifts without judgment creates a more responsive relationship with creativity. As experimentation with creativity continues, patterns begin to emerge. You may notice that certain activities are more accessible at specific times of day. You may find that some forms of expression require more cognitive energy, while others feel more restorative. You may also recognize that your preferences change depending on your physical or emotional state. This awareness is valuable. It allows you to make choices that align with your current capacity rather than working against it. It also reduces the likelihood of abandoning creativity altogether because you begin to understand how to adapt it. Research on behavioral patterns and habit formation suggests that consistency is more sustainable when activities are aligned with existing rhythms rather than imposed on top of them. When creativity is integrated into your natural patterns of energy and attention, it becomes easier to maintain over time. This doesn't mean that every day will include creative engagement. It means that when the opportunity arises, you are more likely to recognize it and respond to it. At this stage, many people begin to notice a shift. Creative expression may start to feel less like something that belongs in the past and more like something that is still accessible, even if it looks different. At the same time, this process can raise new questions like, how do I continue this without adding pressure? How do I make space for this in a way that feels sustainable? Or how do I navigate the emotional layers that come up as I reconnect with my creativity? These are not questions that require immediate answers, but they do benefit from reflection. For some, having a structured space to explore these questions can provide clarity and steadiness. Coaching can offer that space, allowing you to examine what's working, what feels aligned, and what may need to shift, all while honoring your pace and your capacity. As we close part two, I invite you to consider a question that builds on what we've explored so far. What form of creative expression feels most accessible to you right now, given your energy and your capacity? This isn't something that you need to expand on or commit to. It's enough to simply notice it. As we move on into part 3, we'll explore how to sustain creative expression in a way that feels supportive rather than demanding, and how to integrate it into the rhythm that reflects your life as it is now. If you would like support as you continue this process, you're invited to visit our coaching inquiry page and explore what type of coaching may be right for you in a space that is designed to help you reflect on your needs and consider what kind of support would feel most aligned. Thank you for continuing this conversation with me, and I look forward to seeing you again in part 3. Want to learn more? Subscribe to my newsletter at https://coaching-for-illness.kit.com/newsletter for ongoing reflections, free tools, and notification of new episodes of Navigating Chronic Illness with Heart and Hope with Valerie Alawiye, my video series on grief, illness, and gentle healing. Or visit https://www.coachingforchronicillness.com/coaching-inquiry/ to explore more options to receive support.